I'm Ric Edelman. Retiring to a country club sounds great, but we're going to show you what you need to consider before making that move. Plus, a panel of investment advisors reveals the biggest investment dangers, and Deborah Norville shows that science proves that a sense of gratitude can really change your life. All this, plus quizzes, comedians, and more, all on this week's edition of The Truth About Money.
Best-selling author and founder of one of the nation's largest financial planning firms, Ric Edelman.
You work hard, you save your money, it's time to retire. So you buy into a country club resort. Perfect, right? Well, maybe not. If your golf shots go left and your tennis balls go into the net, and maybe your idea of fitness is making it from the bed to the couch without running out of breath. My colleague, financial advisor Anderson Wozni, took a good hard look at why it's so important to check it out before you buy. Here's his conversation with Barry McDonald, general manager of the Sawgrass Country Club near Jacksonville, Florida.
Golf is the most significant aspect here of our amenities program here at Sawgrass.
I would imagine.
Yeah, but it's not the only one. We're owned and operated by the members for the benefit of the members. Our bottom line is member satisfaction. Let me bring you up here. I want to introduce you to our director of golf.
Mr. Anderson, nice to see you. Greg Lecker. You gonna play some golf with me today?
That's what happens with the jacket.
It's the jacket.
We're going to prove that the real problem was the jacket.
Oh, yeah. Very good.
Show me the rest of the club.
We have 13 courts here. So these are some of our members here playing tennis. They're out here 5 days a week at least. I'd like to introduce you to Magnus Berglund. Magnus is our director of tennis here at tennis.
Okay, you want to give it a try?
Well, let's hit a few shots and see how we go.
What do you think?
I think I probably
you got a career in tennis?
So I can't quit my day job?
Our members last year voted to renovate this entire facility here. And not just a renovation, it's a complete tear down and rebuild this entire facility.
What is it about fitness these days that is so new?
I think that people are thinking they're more physically fit, they're more active, they want to have a more active lifestyle. Today's senior citizen is a lot younger than they were 20 years ago.
From a financial planning perspective, it's something we harp on with our clients all the time. You're going to live a lot longer than you believe you're going to.
And it's true. I'd like to introduce you to Tim Major, our fitness.
Hi, Tim. Anderson Wozni.
Tim Major, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Well, Anderson, I know you're quite the athlete, so we've sort of set up a little program. It's just a snippet of what we offer here. It's a CrossFit class. You guys, walk it off. Get your zipper walks. Fantastic.
Now, if you don't like golf, and you don't like tennis, you don't like fitness, you don't like the beach, don't come here.
So I'm here with Mr. and Mrs. Shipley, who are members of Sawgrass. What would you say to someone who is considering joining Sawgrass or joining a country club in general?
We come here for vacation for 13, 14 years. Each time we came back was really a reinforcement of what we were looking for.
Was a reinforcement of your goal.
Well, you're right. I mean, if you don't have an objective, you aren't going to do it.
So bottom line, you've seen the golf, seen the tennis, seen the fitness center. What's it going to cost?
Well, initiation fee is at our club $25,000 to $30,000, but there are clubs out there where that's $150,000 to $200,000, and then it's around $7,000 a year in dues. Then it's your usage, and around $10,000 a year. You know, Anderson, I think you've earned this one.
Well, thank you so much, Barry. Rick?
Drinking on the job again, Anderson?
You always caught me that one. That's what happens when you take a camera crew along.
There's evidence.
Yes,
absolutely right. So it's a very common desire for people to retire and go to a country club. That lifestyle is fabulous.
Well, that's it. You've got everything there, so when you go on retirement, it's almost like you're going on vacation permanently.
But there are a lot of costs, and there is a specific lifestyle associated with it.
Well, there's a lifestyle associated with it, but not only that, there's risks associated with the type of club that you join. What if the country club that you join gets into financial difficulty? Now you're living in a place that maybe doesn't have the amenities you thought it was going to have.
Might not even have the golf course.
Right, might not be able to maintain the golf course. It costs several $1 million a year just to maintain a golf course.
So how do you protect yourself by making sure you're not going to walk into a trap?
Well, one of the things that you want to do when you're looking at joining a club, aside from spending a lot of time visiting it, is to ask to see the books, to know what's going on. And you have a right to do that as a member. You have a right to ask for the books, to see how they're doing financially, to get a full understanding of what's going on. How many people are joining? How many people are leaving?
But you raised a really interesting point in that segment there that noted that as we age, we're going to remain as physically fit as we are right now, and the notion of a rocking chair on the porch really ain't our future.
Well, particularly if you're looking at a type of club like this, because it's social and it's active. So if that's not your idea of fun, then you certainly don't want to be looking at that type of a club.
Anderson, thanks very much.
Thank you.
What percentage of Americans aged 65 or older have an annual income below $15,000? Is it 11%? 30%, 51%, or 81%? We'll have the answer later in the show.
At a recent conference, investment advisors were asked just one question. What is the biggest danger in investing today?
Number one, I think not being invested and being out of the market. I think that that's a huge mistake for most people.
The biggest danger today is, having gone through the last crisis, is letting that skew our judgment about where we're supposed to go in the future.
The biggest danger is impatience. Our economy has grown throughout the history of the country. It's not going to stop growing.
People not saving for the future.
The biggest danger today is fear and emotion, and succumbing to that emotion, jumping in and jumping out of the markets.
Did you know the percentage of Americans over 65 with an annual income below $15,000? The correct answer is 30%. Almost a third of all Americans over age 65 have an annual income below $15,000.
Hey, Frank, welcome to the program.
Hey, this is the first year I have to take my required minimum distribution. And the way I see it is this. About 40% of it will go to taxes, fed, local, state. I'm going to take off about 20% for some personal spending, and I want to reinvest the other 40%. What's the best way to handle that?
The money's already invested, yes?
Yes.
Where?
In an IRA,
but where?
Diversified set of mutual funds.
Then I would just replicate it. In other words, you just take the money out of the IRA so that you can pay taxes on it, and take the money for taxes, take the money for spending, and what's left, move it back into those same investments.
Back into the IRA?
No. Not in the IRA, in a taxable account,
yes.
But a taxable account that owns the same investments that you currently own in the IRA.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, you're only taking the money out because the government is forcing you to do it.
That's right.
So the government isn't forcing you to change the investment allocation. No. And if you're happy with the investment allocation, then replicate it in a taxable account. If you're not happy with the investment allocation, then you ought to be fixing the entire IRA.
Fixing it, yeah.
Now, let me go back to one other point that you made, Frank, because I want to challenge a theory here. You said that you are now at the age you're required to make the distribution.
Yes.
What is your age?
70 and a half.
Okay. When did you turn 70 and a half?
In September.
In September of this year?
Yes.
Okay, then you do not have to make a distribution right now.
But he might want to.
Brandon, elaborate on this.
I could wait until next year, but then pay twice.
Exactly. I want to make sure that everybody understands the rules, because this required rule is very confusing. Brandon, explain.
It's convoluted. When you hit the age of 70 and a half, if you have retirement accounts, you have to start withdrawing from them. But in that very first year, you have the option of deferring it to the following year if you take it before April 1st. If you do that, you'll have to take 2 distributions in that year. So I think what Frank just said was it doesn't make sense to take 2 next year.
So as long as you recognize that and have decided that's the way it works best for you, Frank, perfect. The other thing that catches a lot of folks is they think that they have to take the money out in the year they turn 70. And of course, it's not until April 1 of the year after the year you turn 70 and a half. So there you go, Frank.
It's always something, man. It's weird, like money now for me has become much more of an issue. My wife and I, we just had a child, little baby boy, and like we gotta make the money stretch. So like now he's 6 months, he's starting to eat more food and stuff. We got this good like organic stuff that comes in these little pouches. It's like called like Ella's Kitchen, and it's really like good stuff. It's like, you know, butternut squash and apricot and sweet potatoes. My wife is like, that sounds good. This is the conversation we had the other day. She says, I hear some people eat baby food. And I said, yes, the same people that eat cat food. Until she looks at me and she's like, I hear it's for dietary reasons. I said, that's funny, because I hear it's for budgetary reasons.
Hi, Mr. Rick. I wanted to ask about what my savings should be for myself, even though I know I have a college fund set aside by my parents. I was wondering, since I want to go to Yale Law when I'm older, how should I start saving now at my young age?
Do you say your young age, how old are you?
I'm 11 years old.
And have you already started saving money?
A little bit, not very much.
How much do you have so far?
Like $500, that's it.
Wow, that's pretty impressive for a young woman your age. Everyone else in the room is pretty annoyed at you right now. So that's very exciting. And Yale Law is where you're headed. So I'm going to give you a couple of pieces of advice, okay? The first is to keep doing exactly what you're doing. Keep saving. You probably get some money from allowances from mom and dad, and you get some gifts occasionally, and do you do some work here and there and get some money from others for some of the labors that you put into? So do all of those things and keep doing those things to add to your savings. College is still 7 years away, and that's a long time. And that means that you can take some of the money you have in savings and move it out of bank accounts and into mutual fund accounts or exchange-traded funds. Your mom or your dad can show you how to do this. You can do it with even as little money as you have, even less. You can open an account with $100, $250, no big deal. Mom and dad can help you set this up. The account is called a UTMA account, which is shorthand for a Uniform Transfer to Minors Act. It's simply a way for mom and dad to set up an account with you that you can invest and take advantage of the economy over the next 7 or 8 years. So keep doing what you're doing and keep reminding mom and dad, and by the way, your grandparents, that you want to go to Yale Law School. Now, one other thing that's really important. Since you want to go to Yale Law School, where you go to college isn't the sole subject you need to be thinking about. When you get to be a junior in high school, you're going to be focusing on where to go to college. You're going to be studying for your SATs. Be careful about spending too much money on college because Yale is going to cost over $200,000 to go to law school there. So I don't want you to go to Yale as an undergrad if that would put at risk the family's ability to send you to Yale Law School. I'd rather you spend less money for the college so that you have more money to go to Yale for law school. Yale Law is what the real goal is. So talk with your parents about the idea of figuring out how to get you into college for the first 4 or 5 years without breaking the bank so that you still have money left over to get to Yale Law, okay?
Thank you.
My name is Sherry R. Coming straight from work. I'm a federal employee. Any other federal employees here? Yeah. Found out recently that we are overpaid. Yeah, I found that out in a presidential debate. That was news to me. My wife, of course, does not agree with that. I guess that means she's a liberal. My wife is a kind of an angry person. Holds grudges, never lets anything go. She's still mad at me about lying to her about being a doctor.
Hi, Rick. I've been wondering about secured credit cards. How good are they, or how bad are they?
Credit cards are terrific financial tools, but you can only get them if you have already demonstrated that you're a good credit risk. Well, what if you're just brand new starting out and you really are brand new with an income, or maybe even you don't have an income, and you have no credit history, and that means credit card companies and lenders might not want to give you a credit card. Enter a secured credit card. Here's how it works. It's pretty simple. Instead of using the credit card and then paying the bill, you pay the bill first. In other words, you send the credit card company $500 or $300. And guess what? That becomes your credit limit. The credit card company will give you a credit card with a $300 limit because they already have your $300. They're no longer worried that you won't pay the bill. And this way, you can build a good credit record. Even though they're holding on to your $300, they'll send you a bill anyway, and you make the monthly payment. And you do that for a period of months, pretty soon they'll let you have your $300 back, and they'll let you keep your $300 line of credit. And they'll slowly increase your line of credit as you continue to demonstrate good behavior with the use of credit cards. So a secured credit card is a great way to get started if you are unable to get a credit card any other way.
In a mutual fund, the higher the standard deviation, the greater the volatility or the greater the risk. The greater at both volatility and risk, or neither volatility nor risk is greater. The answer is coming up later in the show.
Deborah Norville admits that she was always the golden girl. She began anchoring television while she was still in college, and then rose up through local stations and eventually to NBC News, where she was later named co-host of The Today Show in 1991. And then almost immediately, she was driven from the job in a firestorm of public criticism. She rebounded, and for 17 years has been the anchor of TV's Inside Edition. We spoke with her about her rise, her fall, and her comeback at her offices in New York. Things haven't always been easy for you. Famously, you had a difficult stint at NBC.
Yeah, I was the youngest anchor, female solo anchoring a network newscast when I was, I think, 28. Then I'm on the Today Show. Then Jane Pauley decides to retire or stop getting up in the middle of the night. And they bring me in as the co-host. And that's when the heavens open and all this unbelievably negative publicity happened. It was personally devastating. I did not think I would work in this business again.
And how long did it take for you to, in fact, get your next gig?
I had a baby at the same time all this happened, so I went on maternity leave. So it was just this, like, head-spinning thing. So I resigned. I went into a major depression. I spiraled as far down as you can get.
How long did that last?
It was a few months.
And what brought you out of that?
I remembered something a girlfriend had said once. She said, when you need to have a good cry, take a hot shower, because when you come out, your face is going to be red and wet anyway. And I just sobbed my heart out. As I'm getting out of the shower, and I said, today I'm going to get dressed. That was my goal. And I had to, when I got dressed and put on a little makeup, redefine who I was. Because who I wasn't a lady working on TV anymore. Who I wasn't NBC's, fastest rising star. Who I was a woman trying to figure out what she was all about and tapping into what made me me.
You're so well known, not only, of course, for the TV show Inside Edition, but for the books that you've written. Tell me a little bit about that.
The first of those books was the book called Thank You, Power. The linchpin was a study that was done by some professors at the University of California, Davis. They took 3 groups of people. One group was told to focus on what was working in their life, things for which they felt grateful. Another group was told to focus on the things that were hassles, and the third group was told to focus on sort of emotion-neutral things. So people noticed a change in behavior on the part of people in the gratitude group that they didn't see in the other 2 test groups. Those people exercised on average an hour and a half more per week. They were healthier. They didn't have as many allergy attacks or headaches or hangovers. They felt like they were getting more done on their to-do list.
So you're actually talking about hard scientific data, academically endorsed, that is demonstrating genuine scientific results on how you can improve your outlook and, as a result, your results.
Yeah, and I think I was the first person who sort of took some of that data outside of that realm. That's what I do. I work in television. I take things and I dumb them down so that lots of people can understand them.
In today's economic environment, we have so many people out of work, in foreclosure. How can they feel good and how can they turn this to their advantage?
Well, that's what's so, I think, exciting about this concept, the power of gratitude. It actually will make you smarter. So let's say you're the person who's struggling with your investments and your 401k has turned into the proverbial 201k. And you need to be smart. You got to figure out how to strategize to fix this situation. Thank You Power will help you do this. Because what it does is when you look at all the things that are your blessings, and you've got them written down, I have a little notebook I keep my little, 1, 2, 3 data points in. When you look at that, you go, whoa, my life isn't as awful as it could have been, because let's face it, there could always be a worse situation than the one you're in. And then you look at that and you feel, well, I feel pretty good. Well, what happens scientifically when you feel good is you've activated your dopamine receptors. We're all familiar with the feel-good hormone, and you get that runner's high. When you've activated the dopamine receptors, you have excited the same part of your brain as where strategic thinking, cognitive associations, reasoning, and logic are headquartered, and it's right here.
So as we go, I always like to have my viewers walk away with some real tangible steps. Tell me what people should do that they can really put into action to try to take advantage of what you're describing.
Well, I think one of the first things you need to do is sit down right now as the closing credits on the show roll and write down 10 things that are good in your life. The second thing I want you to do, if you are one of the 1 in 10 people who right now are probably depressed, because statistically we know that's true, I want you to take a bright pink or orange or green piece of paper, and on that piece of paper, write a list of moments in your life that you can recall that were good times. And put that little piece of paper in your wallet. You're going to see it when you're looking for your money, go, oh, that's my happy list. And then, once you're in that positive frame of mind, I want you to write down your wish list. I wish I were doing X. I wish I could Y. It's in the Old Testament. It says, write the vision, and the vision will come to pass. So write the vision, and it'll happen.
And as usual, the best has already been written. Deborah, thanks so much.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Here's the correct answer to our money quiz. In a mutual fund, the higher the standard deviation, the greater the volatility and the risk.
Before we go, earlier in the show, we met an 11-year-old girl who's determined to go to Yale Law School. And after meeting her, do you have any doubts that she'll get there? But we also saw how important it is to make sure that what you think you want is really what you want. As the guy at the Sawgrass Resort said, if you don't like golf, tennis, fitness, and the beach, don't buy a country club membership. But too often, we see clients who have done exactly that. They paid dearly for what they thought would be a lifelong dream, only to find out that, well, they'd have been happier doing something else. Come to think of it, maybe that young lady should consider alternatives before setting her mind on law school. And that's the truth about money. I'm Ric Edelman. See you next week.